West Cork Beard Company make beard oil and beard balm for a strong, healthy, great-looking beard. Handmade from all natural ingredients in Clonakilty, West Cork. Check out their YouTube channel for beard care tips and advice, or catch them online at westcorkbeardcompany.ie.
For Gooners everywhere, this is the ultimate football app for you. For match highlights, interviews, and the best Arsenal videos and podcasts. Download the free Gunners app now from the App Store and Google Play.
Good evening and welcome to the Same Old Arsenal. Happy Easter, everyone. I hope you've all enjoyed your weekend in the sunshine. I know that I certainly have. And as you can see, I've caught some sun as well. Welcome to the Same Old Arsenal. I'm going to be kind of co-hosting tonight with Lee Judges because Craig, unfortunately, can't be with us. So both of us will be hosting tonight. First of all, I'm going to welcome the man himself, Mr. Lee Judges. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good. Thank you very much, Dan. All good. I think Craig must be stuck up the ladder or something. Like, I don't know what's going on with him at the moment, but all that painting and decorating he's doing, I don't know. So, listen, have you ever had a weird bank holiday Monday? I can't believe it. So not only am I eating loads of biscuits now, they've chucked on chocolate on top now. Like it's just. I've got to go and do something sooner or later. But other than that, Dan, I'm all good.
Good, man. Good to hear, Lee. And, of course, joining us as well is Mr. Harry Simew. Harry, how you doing, mate? Happy Easter, man.
Happy Easter to you guys and to everyone watching as well. Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Can't complain. Enjoyed the sun this weekend. A couple of barbecues by myself, obviously. But, yeah, all good. All good.
Likewise, man. Barbecues on my own too. And last of all, our special guest for the night. Please welcome everybody, Mr. Alex Brooker. Alex, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you, pal. How are you?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thanks so much for coming. Listen, you look like you're abroad out there, mate. It's unbelievable.
This is the Costa del Huddersfield at the moment. This is the best weather I think we've ever had here. But I'll be honest with you, I've come out here to get away from my kids, quite frankly, and I'm absolutely freezing already. The sky behind me does not show just how cold it is. At the moment.
Schoolboy era.
That is. Listen, guys, we're going to be first of all, Alex, thanks so much for coming on, mate. We're going to be we're going to be talking about the Wenger years, and we're going to be talking about some missed opportunities. And Lee, I'll let you kind of start because me and you had a chat about this, and we wanted to have this as a bit of a topic, didn't we? But you've been watching some of the old games and rolling back the years and stuff, So go for it, mate.
Exactly, because we've been in this lockdown situation. It's obviously all bored. I've been starting watching the old games, and I'll be honest. That Arsenal win them every time. I don't put on the losing ones. I've still not gone. There's part of me wants to go and watch the Man United game. When we the 50th game, but I just can't bring myself to watch that. But there been some fantastic games and some fantastic performances. But I've looked back at it and I thought. There's been a few missed opportunities as well where I didn't realise, and I don't know how you guys think of it, I didn't realise how good we was. You just sort of like memories and things like that. Patrick Vieira dominating the midfield, Henry up front. It was fantastic. And even when I go back to the Emirates years, I was watching a game yesterday. I can't remember who it was against now, but where it was Van Persie, Fabregas, Nasri, and Adebayor, all at their best. You know what I mean? Well, that ain't a bad front four, to be honest, of quality. And then I looked at it and I think we made a couple of mistakes. Almunia in goal. We had some, and I just think that if Wenger would have just concentrated on just bringing in a decent goalkeeper and a couple of defenders, we could have been, pushing for titles even in those Emirates years as well. So I just feel like, I don't want it to be a Wenger bashing or anything like that because it is really my feeling is towards it that we were so good with this team that we should have won more. Is it me being greedy or is it me just thinking that there are a few missed opportunities there? So,
I think there are missed opportunities. The ones that come to my mind straight away. 2008, I thought we were looking like the best team in the league there when we had Van Persie and Adebayor, Fabregas and Flamini in the middle, Hleb and Rosicky either side. We had Toure and Gallas. And it was that Birmingham game, really, when Eduardo broke his leg that everyone goes on about. And that was the opportunity from there that I don't know if that mentally hurt those players or what it did. But from that point, that season was a huge missed opportunity for me. Obviously, you can talk about the kind of 13-14 season when we were top of the league at New Year's Day. I know we won the FA Cup against Hull that year, but that was a season we should have done more. And the year that Leicester won the league, I thought we could have done something that year. But before we kind of go into that, I think we should give the guy some credit because I think he deserves some. Alex, we'll start with you. What's your kind of opinion of Arsene Wenger, mate?
Well, it's quite weird. Like, we're kind of talking about kind of all, near misses and where we should have won more. And I think that says a lot, because if you kind of go through, and I think back to like 98, 99, and when United won the treble, I remember us going up to Leeds and getting beat a couple of games ago. And you look at that, and then Bergkamp's missed penalty in a semi-final. And again, you look at that was like quite a fine margin. And I know if you look at 2000, 2001, we weren't really close. Then we did the double in 2002, should have won it in 2003. Won it, we went invincible 2004, and it's like you still look at like 4 years after that, 2008. Yeah, well, I agree. I think we should have won it, and it's kind of, I think it is a testament to Wenger that there were so many like kind of great moments, but we were also quite close to doing more as well. And when you think how things are now, I'd give anything to have some near misses. I would love a near miss, and it's I kind of weirdly enough that Birmingham game when Eduardo broke his leg, it was weird at the time because I was a sports journalist at the time for a company called the Press Association, and I was watching it live on our feed, and I remember thinking at the time, like, Gallas's reaction when he was in the centre circle afterwards is how I felt. It was like this big feeling of injustice, and how wrong it was. Not only had Eduardo broke his leg, but also the fact that we hadn't won the game. And I kind of, at the time, I didn't think there was anything wrong with sitting in the middle of the pitch. But you look back on it now, and I think it kind of showed that mentally maybe that team kind of crumbled quite quickly. And I think that might be an accusation you could throw at a couple of Wenger teams when we've nearly missed out.
Yeah, I think you're right there, mate. I think you're dead right. I think that we have missed that out, and it's been quite frustrating. But one thing you bring up, which is so true, Alex, is I'd love to be having near misses and coming second, because I look at some of the old games now, and where we were complaining and we were moaning at the time, and look at us now. You know what I mean? I think, wow, look how far we have come, unfortunately. And we were still frustrated. Against Birmingham, I was gutted. When we threw it away against Birmingham in the cup final, I was absolutely gutted. There's been so many missed opportunities. Harry, I know you're a massive Arsene Wenger fan, as am I. Why do you feel that some fans have given him, I believe, kind of a harsh sort of critics? Has it just been because of the kind of lack of trophies we won? Has it been because of the lack of signings, the recruitment?
I think it's a combination of things. I think that when I describe Arsene Wenger's tenure as Arsenal manager, after the word brilliant, the next word that comes to mind is unlucky. And I genuinely mean that. It's not a cop-out. It's not me just sitting here going, that's why we didn't win everything. But for me, Arsene Wenger was really unfortunate. There was a lot. You guys were talking about feeling like injustice, like coming away from games and feeling as though we'd been robbed. That happens way too often under Arsene Wenger. The likes of Manchester United, how many times did we get robbed against Manchester United over the years? How many times did we concede late goals that cost us? And, there's an argument that it's not just all down to luck, but I certainly think that he never really got the rub of the green when it mattered. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. We were talking about the 2006 Champions League final. And you cast your mind back to that and how brilliant Arsenal were, in getting all the way to the final. We had a bit of luck in the semi-final when Jens Lehmann saved that penalty. We go to the final, and then it was after we took the lead, it was just, everything went against us, didn't it? Like, I mean, the luck wasn't there. The luck ran out. There's other games that come to mind as well where we just didn't get that rub of the green. So I think Arsene Wenger, when you look at his team over the 22 years or whatever, people will always point to the fact that he never won the Champions League. But when you think about it, I think apart from the 98 team, and the 2004 Invincibles. I don't even include the 2002 double winning side in this probably. I don't think he ever had a team good enough to win the Champions League. I think we had a good team in terms of looking at the Premier League and competing in that. But in terms of the European stage, I never felt he really had the tools to compete there. And so I think that criticism of him is really harsh. I think when things started to turn a bit sour, I think it was a combination of things. One, Arsene Wenger had been left behind a little bit, which it pains me to say, but it was the truth. The way the club was being run, and I'm sure we're going to come on to that a bit later, that wasn't right. Never provided them with the right environment. And in giving him free reign, they kind of shot themselves in the foot. So I think there's a lot of factors. But for me, the one that always sticks in my mind when I watch these games back, and I've been like judge over these last few weeks, watching a lot of them back, most of the ones that we win, obviously. But we weren't a very lucky team. I don't know if I'm just being biased as an Arsenal fan when I say that, but I just felt we never got the rub of the green when it really, really mattered.
2006 is the one that hurts the most. I think that one. I watched. There was a few years ago they did that Henri documentary. And they put it on the website. I don't know if you remember. And it was Henri on it was talking about. It's the clip that say you remember that documentary where they always use a clip where he's talking about Tarico jumping up and down at him.
Yeah.
So you're cheering, but we only need a draw to win the league at your place, and that was the attitude of them. And it's that documentary, and in it he talks about when he went clean through to put us 2-0 up against Barcelona. How he didn't have anything left in his legs. And you think back, they ran their nuts off in that game. I remember Lundberg just being all over the place. And do you know what? I think the rub of the green, they didn't get it in that game, certainly. And that's what is the most heartbreaking about it. And also, like I mentioned before, like that 2004 when we went to Old Trafford for the 50th game, and you're saying, Lee, that you haven't watched it back. Don't, mate. I watched like this YouTube clip and this explanation of all the decisions, and some of the ones that go against us in that game are absolutely insane. How Mike Riley is in charge of refs in this country now, because it is absolutely criminal. Just don't do it to yourself, mate.
Alex, I've never ever watched it. I've never ever watched it back, and I've never actually watched it on TV because I've just never been able to do it, And you are so right. Harry said something there that just reminded me of something. I don't know if you can remember. I don't know what year this was, but you'll remember it when we played Liverpool in the Champions League. It might have been the quarterfinals or whatever, knockout stages.
Awful.
Right? They've got the two referees behind the goal for the first time ever, and we were at 1-1 with about 3 minutes to go, and Kleb gets absolutely taken out, and it's a blatantest penalty that you ever wish to see. And it doesn't get given. And then we go up to Anfield, and then Walcott does the magical run, puts it across to Adebayor, and we're all in there celebrating, thinking that we're through. And then we go and concede in the last couple of minutes. But realistically, we'd have gone through if it weren't for that poor decision. I have to say, injuries as well have been a real big factor why things ain't gone well. Diaby would have been, I think, a fantastic player with the injury. Eduardo, and the one that pains me there, because I watched the games, a couple of games today when Aaron Ramsey pre-injury was phenomenal. When it, we had that little bit of extra pace to his game. 18 years of age, and he was running games for us just before he got injured, and the Stoke game as well. So injuries have been a big part of things as well. But I also think there's I'm going to criticise Wenger a little bit of arrogance. I look back, I disagree with Harry about the 2004 because I thought we was well equipped to win that Champions League that season.
No, sorry, that's the season I said I didn't think the 2002 team, so the double team that won it. In
2000,
2004 I thought we could have, yeah.
If we'd have beaten Chelsea, we'd have had Monaco in the semi-final, and then we'd have had Porto in the final. That would have been a great chance. And we was one hell of a side. I look at that team now. It had every. I look back at it to win it and go unbeaten is incredible, and we should, laud that as we do. But I still feel there's a missed opportunities there. Semi-final of the FA Cup. Playing Man United, chance to really smash it home to them. You know what I mean? I've always felt really annoyed with him in '99. For Arsene Wenger to do that, we should have won in '99. He had the opportunity when we was by far a better team than them to go to that cup final, play Millwall in the final and smash them. And he played a reserve some. And then we lose to Chelsea. And then obviously like the game after that was Liverpool when we was fantastic. But it was a little bit of arrogance in that in that team selection, what he done there, and I felt that it was a massive missed opportunity from what I see of that, and it was a great team. But just little things like that, and I do agree with what we're saying about, unlucky and things like that. And also, I'm going to go and see it now. Even Leeds at home, when we lost 3-2 in 2003, they're down there fighting for relegation, and it was just a mismatch of a game. And I'm going to say this now. I went to the cup final a week later, and it was the last cup final I went with my dad. Like, he's still alive, by the way, but he weren't like quite fit enough to go to the game. So it was the last time we went to, and I never enjoyed the 2003 cup final because I was still bitter about that with the game the week before. We lost the league, and I look back at it now and I think, God, what a mug I was. I should really have enjoyed these moments.
Yeah, but you bring that up, Lee, and I think that's a great point, because that season for me, we were, I think, was it 8 points or even 11 points ahead of United that season, and we just won the double going into that 02-03 season. We were top draw, in my opinion. That side was as good as the Invincible side. I still feel most of them were pretty much there, and we had a great chance to do that, and we threw it away massively because we were so far ahead. I think that was the first missed opportunity for me, really. Obviously, season after that, we make up for it by going unbeaten, but I think, Alex, you make a great point earlier before we went live about the situation with Wayne Bridge at Highbury. Just because that game, what happened to that game?
I mean, I'll tell you, when you think back to it, I remember because we've scored. So we've drawn 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. We've gone to our place. Reyes put us 1-0 up just before half time. So you look at it, you're 2-1 ahead on aggregate, you've got an away goal. And then straight after half time, I remember Lehman, I remember him parrying a shot out, and I think I can't remember who it was that scored. But that was like a mistake early on. And when that happened, it's weird with that, because actually it was like, if that had have happened just before half time, they could have regrouped, but they just never got hold of the game again after that. And I remember because he took Henry off when at that point, like, the game was heading into extra time. It's always weird when you think he took Henry off and put Bergkamp on, I think. And it's weird when you think back to that, because Henry had been rested for that game against United, if you remember, because that was a big. Wenger said,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, Wenger said afterwards, well, we're not relying on just one player. So the idea of resting him was he should have been fresh. And we just lost our minds. I lost my mind. I didn't go back to uni for like a week after that game. I was at home. I was too upset. I couldn't show my face. And
I remember feeling sick.
I was heartbroken. That Wayne Bridge, and it does feel like that team does feel like the most equipped. Weird enough, I know we got to the final in 2006 and came close, but you still always felt that 04 team was the team that was the best equipped to go and win the Champions League. And I suppose for Arsene, it's always kind of a bit of a mark against him, the fact that he didn't. I think when we talk about some of these near misses as well, the things that makes me think about in 2003 was like, sometimes it's like just a little bit of a lack of quality and depth. I remember 2003, I can't remember who it was that was injured at the back, but I remember that was when Seagan came in into the team late in that league run, and he was bum, wasn't he? So it was just like, it was just one of those.
30 foot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I've done this podcast before. I don't know what the language is. But yeah,
go for it, mate.
Bum was the word that came into my mind. It's not a usual turn of phrase, just to let everyone at home know. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right, mate. He was bum. That is definitely a word for Sigan.
That's what we're going to call him now. Pascal Bum Sigan.
Pascal Bum Sigan. Yeah. I think that most of these, obviously, at the Highbury days, but moving into the Emirates, Lee, it was like, I mean, we did take some Invincibles, but most of them had left. I mean, Henry and Gilberto were really the only two that I can remember. So, do you think that kind of we were starting again, and maybe some of this team were just too young to kind of start again in the Emirates that year? Because
this is where I feel that, I'm never, people criticise Arsene Wenger for the Emirates years and whatever. I thought for what he had and the tools that he had and what we now know a little bit more, I think we've done an absolutely fantastic job. And I can tell you this now, some of the football we played at the beginning of the Emirates for the first 3 or 4 seasons, and what I've been seeing now, yeah, I don't. You didn't realise how good they were. I was saying earlier on before we come on, like Nasri, we had Nasri, Adebayor, Fabregas, Van Persie when they was like at their prime, and it was a pleasure to watch. I remember like we destroy teams, but there was a weakness at the back. There was if he'd have addressed and got himself a goalkeeper, if he'd have got himself a decent centre half, I honestly think we could have gone on and won a lot of things. But it was incredibly gifted sides and teams that he put out. The football that we played was unbelievable. And even so, like when Arsenal lose now, it don't hurt so much because I think the reason being is because we were so good then. The expectations were there so much more. And I think over the years, the expectations of the Arsenal fans has been dampened all the time, But and I think that he's done a fantastic job with some of the teams that he played. And I just feel there's always been some great. He got a tune. I watched the game. Was it the game I watched the other day? I can't think. It was Spurs. We beat them 3-0. Do you know when Fabregas scored straight from
straight after. Yeah, I remember that.
The Nielsen, I think it was the Nielsen or someone like that in midfield. I might be getting my games mixed up here. And I'm looking at him and he's bossing the game. He's absolutely bossing the game. And then I hear people turn around and say, Danielson was a rubbish player. Well, he wasn't in that team. He was like, really, really good. And it was some really good It was, a buoy going down the wing. I tell you what game I see today was Charlton when Van Persie gets two
What
goals. But he's bombing down the wing, and I'm thinking, cool, we all go mad about Bellerin and we slagged off a buoy, you know what I mean? And things like that. So he found some fantastic players. And I just think that I just didn't realise how good the Arsenal team was. And that's why I wanted to bring this up. And people, I think, are a little bit unfair on Wenger at the moment. Because of what happened in the last few years, they're all anti-Wenger. But I also think in those few years I know we didn't win nothing. I remember coming out of the game against Birmingham. Listen, I was as disappointed as anybody. I think a lot of fans turned on him that day. And as much as was it his fault that that Chesney and Koscielny messed up at that? No, you know what I mean. And the biggest key factor of that is that on the Wednesday night we had to play Stoke. It was a real horrible, what they were like. That's when Stoke under Pulis were a real tough team, and we lost Fabregas that day for a hamstring injury. And he didn't play in that final, and that was a massive, massive loss to lose your captain, a player that made everything tick. And I don't know if you remember in that game as well. This is when we're going about luck as well. That when Van Persie scored, he was never the same after that with the injury. He got injured in that game. He was never quite the same. I think he was, it was just it just wasn't to be. And you get games. I remember. This is how bored I am. I'm watching things back in the 70s. How good Leeds were, you know what I mean. But Leeds lost to Sunderland in a cup final, and they had all these great teams. Liverpool in the 70s and 80s lost to Man United on the semi-final. All these great teams have near misses, you know what I mean? And probably Man United fans will probably say, we should have beaten Arsenal this game and that game. And we're all right, Alex and Dan are saying, let's go next season. If we get a near miss and come runners up, and I'll be disappointed. I promise you I won't moan. I promise you I won't, because this is what it's about now, isn't it? Like, it's absolutely fantastic to watch these games back. But there are those defeats are hurtful, and refereeing decisions. As I say, I'm going to go on what Alex said. I'm never going to watch it. I'm never going to watch that Man United game.
It's genuinely, it's the closest. I think that it's the worst refereeing performance I've ever seen. It's like, not only should they go down to 10 men when Ferdinand hauls Lundberg, it's a professional foul. Also, Van Nistelrooy ends up raking his studs down Ashley Cole's shin. Yeah. And oh my God, it's right in front of the linesman, and he doesn't go. And it's just, the game is mad. The worst thing about that game, I remember Ashley Cole getting booked first, and there were some of the worst challenges I've ever seen. And it was, as you can tell, mate, I'm upset about it now.
I think we all are, man. We all are. I must admit.
I think sometimes with Arsene, when I kind of look at some of the recruitment when we went to the Emirates, I know that, he had less money to play with. But I always felt that we lost. It was like, do you remember when we played Chelsea in the League Cup final? I think it was one of the youngest teams they've ever had.
2007,
yeah. Kind of, we lost experience, and we didn't quite replace it with quality experience, and I think that there was always a bit of a detriment slightly to the teams, and also a bit of physicality as well. It's like kind of these kind of technically gifted players, but they're all quite small and slight, and there was that thing, it was like, let's get into Arsenal. But they weren't.
Yeah.
2004, I remember like teams used to come and try and kick them, and they were just too big and too good for them and too strong. Whereas when the teams changed slightly, we kind of lost that a little bit, and I think sometimes that kind of contributed a little bit to why we slightly fell short a little bit, really. And it is weird when we talk about Arsenal, because we're talking about all these near misses and all this success, and it is kind of weird now when there is kind of that. I don't know, kind of, like you said, Lee, like that from the last couple of years of his time at Arsenal, there is almost it kind of leaves like a little bit of a sour taste.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because we were spoiled for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, when I look back at like kind of my time supporting Arsenal, I was 14 when we done the double in 2008, and literally every single season, nigh on, got even 2007 we got to the League Cup final. 2008 we were almost challenging for the title. So you're looking at a good long stretch there of kind of 10 years or so where we were challenging for something. Even 2000, when we had a bad season, we got to the UEFA Cup final. 2001, that Liverpool Cup final. How the hell we didn't win that is beyond me.
Another joke decision. Another joke decision.
Yeah, it was a joke decision.
Yeah, another one. Like, it's just thought that just remind me of that one. Like,
Yeah.
Do you think like though, Harry, you're a, as you say, massive Arsene Wenger fan as well. But do you think, like, as an Arsenal fan, or in general, that the defeats hurt more than the greatness of winning? Do you know what I mean? Like if you win all the time, like, when you win a cup, oh yeah, that was great. The feeling's great. But when you lose, it hurts even more. Do you know what I'm saying?
It does, because what happened was under Arsene Wenger in the early years, we were spoiled. And like you said, Judge, earlier we were talking about, looking at going to the games and it not hurting so much when we get beat now, because we've become used to it. The decline wasn't over 1 or 2 years. It was over a period of time. And I think that from a business perspective, the club thought it was the right thing to move to the Emirates. I don't think that they moved there, without having the best intentions in mind. But when they did go there, things changed completely. You had like the emergence of Chelsea a few years before that had come out of nowhere with lots of money. All of a sudden, there was another challenger. Alex, you mentioned the change in approach from Arsene Wenger in the way he managed his teams and the way he set up his teams and the route he went down, less physical players. If you look at it, 2008 to 2012, that was the Barcelona peak under Pep Guardiola. So he's obviously had a look at that and thought, this is the way forward now. We didn't have the finances, we didn't have the personnel to try and emulate that, and we struggled. But I think there were so many things going on in the background in the Emirates era that it was almost impossible for Arsene Wenger to get it 100% right. And I think what Judge said before was spot on. We were just being in the top 4 was a good job considering the situation. We've heard Fabregas recently talk about the way he left and that he wanted to leave the year before because he didn't feel that the ambition was there. We've heard Van Persie since he left come out and say the same things. We've heard Adebayor, who I can't stand now, but let's be honest, there was a period of time where Adebayor was really, really important to this Arsenal side. He was scoring goals left, right and centre. And Adebayor had someone come in the room one day and tell him, we're selling you. Again, because that was the way the club was being run. It was all about money, and money, unfortunately, dominated everything. And I think that, I think it's a combination of things. Yes, of course, Arsene Wenger made a lot of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Anybody who's in a job for 22 years will make errors. So we've got to forgive him a little bit for that. But I think when you put all the factors into one and you look at everything in the bigger picture, then apart from maybe the last 2 seasons, Arsene Wenger didn't do a bad job at all. And, the fact that Unai Emery come in and didn't succeed. And, do you think that Mikel Arteta is going to take Arsenal beyond where Arsene Wenger had them? I don't think so, based on where we are now. So we're going to continue to keep looking back at Arsene Wenger. And the longer this goes on, the more we're going to look back and say, actually, we were harsh on him.
Well, let's be honest.
When you look the team, go on, Alex,
sorry, just when I look at like the last couple of years of Wenger's reign, I think the slight problem came when he started to spend money again. He didn't particularly I don't know, it wasn't spent as well as I suppose what we'd have liked. And there's the other thing is we look at the club now, and let's be honest, it's not run well from the top to bottom anyway. It's like, Gazidis when he went off to Milan. You look at some of the decisions that have been made with the club, and I don't want to be too negative, but it wasn't all down to Wenger. I know Wenger had a big say, but I don't think some of the decisions that have been made, at Arsenal in kind of the cronky years, let's be honest, they've not been particularly great as a whole anyway. So I think that it's hard for Wenger because he's kind of, I think we all, he had a lot of say, but I don't think he, we can blame him for everything.
No, you made a great point there, Harry, about Adebayor. The season that he left, he scored 30 goals for us that season. That was a massive thing. And Arsene Wenger come in and said, well, that's okay. We'll let him go. And I'm going to put in Robin Van Persie in that position. And I even know that Van Persie turned around and said, well, he wasn't convinced, was he, that was the role for. And then within a year, we'd forgot about Adebayor because this goal machine Van Persie come along, and again, even like going back to the last couple of seasons, Mesut Ozil come in and Sanchez has come in. It was, we had this great attacking play, but it just never quite worked on the back again, and that is always to me the downside of Wenger.
That's the thing. That's the thing with him as well. Is I think. Well, go on, Harry. Go on.
Sorry, mate. I was just going to say, do you think though that we know that Arsene Wenger had a massive emphasis on attacking football? That's the way he wanted to play, and fair play to him. He's not the only one that you can ask questions about his defensive ability. You could say the same about Guardiola's teams, etc. But for me, I just feel like Arsene Wenger, he knew that he couldn't compete financially with the others around him, and he just made a decision. I believe that he made a decision to prioritize on bringing entertaining football to the table, spending the money that he did have on attacking players, because I believe that was his philosophy and that's what he wanted to emphasize. And so I think if you had said to Arsene Wenger, here you go, mate, here's some more money, you can go get some top defenders, he would have done it. Of course he would have done it. Of course he would have wanted to have the best defenders available. But I think he knew that, it was one after the other. It was Fabregas. How much are you going to put on the table to keep him? Then Van Persie, Adebayor had to be sold. There were so many players. He kept finding a way of regenerating that attacking power, but that cost money, and that meant that we had to keep shifting things around and making do with players in other positions to accommodate that.
I think as well, the one good thing, the few things I'll say about him, to be fair, in terms of his positivity, is how he got some of those sides or some of those squads, teams, into the top four was beyond me. So you've got the likes of Bentner and Shamak up front. You had Gervinho, Flamini and Arteta for ages in the middle. They were all getting top four football. That was outstanding. I don't believe another manager could have done that with the squad that he had. So that's the first thing I'll say. And also, he was never bothered by selling players, Arsene Wenger. And Harry makes good points about some of the players that left. He replaced them. So when Anelka came on, he was the best 17, 18-year-old we'd seen, but he didn't mind selling him because he bought in Thierry Henry. And we always managed to replace Henry with Van Persie, and then Van Persie with Giroud, and then Giroud with Sanchez with Aubameyang. He's always managed to replace players. And I'm not sure that there's another manager out there that has done that apart from Sir Alex Ferguson. Guardiola and Klopp have managed to build their sides, but they've been given so much money to do that with. I'm not so sure that Arsene Wenger was given that much money. So I think he deserves a lot of credit there as well.
I always trusted Wenger to replace attackers, but I never trusted him to replace defenders.
But I don't exactly, and this is the point I'm making, is I don't believe, out of all of the missed opportunities that we've discussed, that we had top centre half or a top defensive midfielder at any of those opportunities. So I don't believe that we had, and it goes back to the style of player we had. We went for Fabregas and Flamini, or Fabregas and Denilson, or Wilshere and Ramsey, but we never had a Vieira. And all of our centre-backs, apart from maybe Koscielny for a couple of seasons, you could name that were absolute bum, as Alex says, yeah? So the Sigan, the Senderos, the Stepanovs, the Skilacci, yeah? Silvestre. How many of these, Mustafi, Socrates, how many of these players are been so poor at the back? And that's where I think that has left Arsene Wenger down, is his recruitment or team or whoever it is that's selecting these players. And we've still got the same problems today. We've still not replaced Vieira. We've still not replaced Sol Campbell. So you look at that against, say, Leicester. We were a defensive midfielder away from winning the league, or a centre-half away from winning the league the year that Leicester won it. Likewise in 2008. Likewise in 2010 when we lost to Birmingham in the Cup and then got thrown out against Barcelona and the rest of them. I still feel we had the spine that was weak there. So I feel that did let us down. Is that Arsene Wenger's fault? Is it the recruitment's fault? Is it both? A combination?
I'll tell you, someone's just messaged me, you know, and I'm going to stick up for Arsene Wenger again. It's just said one of the best games at the Emirates was when we beat Barcelona 2-1. Do you remember that game? The atmosphere, the way we played, you know, brilliant. And then now I don't know if I can't remember, but then we go to Barcelona, we're back in the game, and we get Van Persie sent off for a kicking of
crazy. I was at that game. Crazy
yellow card. You know what I mean? I've never seen it happen ever again, and we end up losing that game, which we, you know, actually happened. Benter went through in the last minute and scored. But again, you know what I mean? Like someone just, you know, we're hurting people here by reminding them of these games. But you know, it's always been there, isn't it? We've been really. I think that, you know, what we're saying about the Emirates, I think we've had some fantastic teams at the Emirates. When you look at those players and how bad they were, some of those defenders, you know, you have to say the man's a genius.
Because the attacking quality, though, was there, Lee, wasn't it? The attacking quality we never had a problem with. It's just that we mentioned how good they were. It's just the poor players we had at the back, in my opinion. And not even fullbacks, because we actually had good fullbacks, in my opinion. You know, Sagna I rated, Clichy I rated, Monreal was consistent, Bellerin was okay when, you know, before he got his injury. So it's been our centre-backs and our defensive midfield, or lack of, that's let us down. Would you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, mate, I do have a point to make on that. But my laptop, I've got like 4%. I really need to quickly go and get my charger.
Mate, go on, mate. You do what you got to do, mate.
Coke while you're at it.
And a charger and a hoodie, mate. Charger and a hoodie.
These professional people not like us.
That's it, mate. But that's the frustrating thing, boys, isn't it? That we're still looking at these positions now that ain't been strengthened. Like, we're still talking about it now.
Yeah,
Vieira,
but
Campbell.
I look back, and I don't think, like, we've heaped loads of praise on Arsene Wenger tonight, and I don't think for a minute that Arsene Wenger never knew that he didn't know within himself that he needed to improve in terms of his personnel defensively. And people say he was arrogant. I don't actually think he was that arrogant. I think he just really believed in what he was doing, and going by his principles, there was no way he was going to, sacrifice quality in the attacking third to build up a defense. That wasn't his way. And, you know, it's maybe it's a bit naive, but I don't think it's arrogant. I think it's naivety more than anything.
Do you think it's a little bit like one of his weaknesses, in my opinion, or kind of a strength and a weakness? His strength was he had trust in players, but it was also his weakness. How long did we stick with Almunia in goal? How long did we have these players I've just mentioned at the back? You know, he was still sticking with Mustafi, you know, and he's still there now. We were still sticking with the likes of Senderos at the back, Giroud. I think we went into the Barcelona game and won 2-1. We had Giroud playing for most of that game.
With Koscielny's first Champions League game.
There you go. So look at that. Crazy.
I don't know if you see it like the other day, and I knew on Match of the Day it was the 4-4 game on Match of the Day. And I thought, oh, shall I pay myself?
Awful.
It's like a defeat to me. It's like a defeat.
Can't watch that.
So I watch it. And, Almunia, for the first, it's a dolly of a shot, you know what I mean? And he piles it out, and we end up drawing 4-4 with Spurs, you know what I mean? I can't, it's like a defeat. I remember coming home from that game like it was a defeat.
Me and my dad were gutted.
It was just like an absolute defeat. And I look back on it now, and I don't realise it. But if we had a decent goalkeeper, we win that game. You know, and it's just things like that. And I do think
there's about 60 Spurs fans left celebrating. There's none of it. They all got home, haven't they?
It was just poetry in motion, and they get 2 goals in the last minute. And I look back on it, and I think, Almunia, what were you doing? And realistically, should never have played for Arsenal after that game. But that, Arsene Wenger is definitely right there. I think Patrick Vieira said it on a documentary, didn't he? It was his
Roy Keane. Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira. That was
his weakness as well.
So
you know, and so that's enough. And I've got to just go back to it now while we're on it. I don't know how people feel about this. I never seen we won the league at White Hart Lane, because that game when we come out of it, I know we won the league at White Hart Lane, but we was 2-0 up, for Christ's sake. Rub it in their faces. We end up drawing 2-2, and I walked off with the ump. You know what I mean? Everybody celebrated.
Crazy, isn't it? Just won the league. Still happy.
No, we should have beaten them. You know, I don't. Is it me? Is it me? You know.
Alex, you wanted to make a point, mate, before you run out of juice. Are you all good now, mate?
Now, sorry about that. No, I was just, we were talking kind of about some of the transfers. I don't know if you kind of gone through it now, but it's like I do look and I do think that, you know, maybe circumstances dictated, you know, missing out on players because other teams could give them higher wages, and that there might be outside kind of factors that we don't know about. I'll be interested to see his autobiography. Just how
I'm looking forward to that.
Some of the things that we didn't really see, and I just felt that some of the recruitment, like you're right, Harry, you kind of always kind of put the emphasis on attacking players, and there were some good ones, but there was also, you look back at that year when we ended up like kind of, it almost felt like panic buying when we got like Mertesacker, Arteta, Park Chu-young. I mean, Jesus Christ. And it was just like Andre Santos. And that season, you look at that, and I felt that kind of some of those, that didn't strike me as a plan. And that's what I think maybe in the latter years maybe slightly cost us, and kind of, Do
you think, as you brought up, Alex, earlier on, though, like, or Harry, don't I think that Wenger screened a lot of that, when I look back at it, that when we lost at 8-2, it was like him turning around and going, "There are, see, this is what I've got to deal with here." You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of the anger was put onto Arsene Wenger when really, Gazidis was having a free ride, and certainly some of those board members were having free rides, and I think Wenger sort of went with him a little bit more, Harry. Do you know what I mean? Than maybe say. I remember going to West Ham over Christmas in January, and Emery come out and turned around and said, "We've got no money." But Arsene Wenger never done that. He always, kept it like, and I just feel everybody was battering him, and I felt like one of the balls just said, "Oh, that's fine. You take all the stick, Arsene." You know what I mean? And I feel that was wrong.
Do you know that it was a little bit like, it was kind of, Wenger was like the ultimate company man. It's like he's the face of the club, and he won't go out there and go, "Look, the board have told me I've got no money." And so, could you ever imagine Mourinho just like, he'd have been gobbing off left, right, and centre, creating discourse. They've not given. I would have got this player, but they've messed it up. And it's like, Wenger was like the ultimate. It felt like he was like the ultimate company man. He protected those above him at the club. He was kind of the face of it. He took the brunt of it off the fans, and I think that obviously his shareholders are going to be loving all that. And I think with that, they gave him he got less scrutiny, maybe slightly other managers, and he had more control over of his bit. And I don't know, it just kind of, to me, that seems like quite of a kind of a bad relationship for the club as a whole, because he was protecting them, and at the same time, I think that they gave him. He stopped being questioned as much, maybe a little bit, and I think that might have been to detriment.
I think Arsene Wenger was maybe a little bit too classy. You mentioned Jose Mourinho there, but Mourinho would have absolutely been the first one coming out in a press conference and saying, if he had to play a game with Juru and Segan at the back and he got beat, he would have been the first one to come out and throw those players under the bus. And Arsene Wenger's principles wouldn't allow him to do that.
Yeah,
and that went against him in the long run, because like you said, Alex, he was protecting the club. Whenever things went wrong, he wouldn't point the finger at somebody else. He'd then sit there and probably worry about how he was going to put it right and how he was going to improve it. And I was actually lucky enough to meet Arsene Wenger a couple of months after he'd left the job. And when I tell you, looking at the guy face to face, having left the Arsenal job, he looked 10 years younger. And that's not even an exaggeration. Like, you could just see
the supermarket, didn't you?
Yeah.
How can you go to the supermarket and see Arsene Wenger? That's unreal.
What supermarket was it, Harry? Lidl's?
No, it was Boots in Whetstone. I went to get some deodorant, and well, I went and played football at half time, and I forgot my deodorant at home. Went to Boots, and I found Arsene Wenger.
I met Wenger in 2000. Just for a random thing, I met him in 2000. Remember, like, before they had like the big, like, kind of the big training ground and stuff like that. Sometimes before Champions League nights, the players would go to a hotel and they'd go to this Holiday Inn before Champions League games at Highbury and get the coach from there. It was down the road from Great Ormond Street. And I was in hospital at the time and my physio like wheeled me down there. Let's put it this way, like they're not going to say no to photos of a little fat guy in a wheelchair. They've always done that. Wenger was there. And I remember my mum having like a photo. And I remember my mum just going, "Oh, you're not very handsome in real life." And now looking back now, at the time I was like 15, I didn't really want to see it, but I think she might have been flirting with him. Wenger could have been my stepdad. Made little Wenger out signs on the computer if he'd have grounded me. Stuff like that. It's kind of weird. I always remember thinking, God, he's tall. But then when you're sat in a wheelchair because you've broken a leg, everyone is.
Your mum said, we'll wheel you out, Alex. Yeah.
Well, what was Wenger buying him boots? Did you have a little look in his basket, Harry?
You know what? He was buying. He had toothpaste in his hand. I think he was like, because I said he was standing there, and there was somebody else that was talking to him, like just a passerby who obviously recognized him, and he was like really friendly and open and warm. And like sometimes when you see people like that, you know, are famous, and you look at them and you're like, you kind of get that vibe off them, whether you feel like you can go and say hello or you can't. And Arsene Wenger gave that vibe of like, you know, I'm happy to talk to anyone or whatever. And because I used to work on Whetstone High Road, and there was an Italian restaurant there, and we used to go there for lunch sometimes on a Friday. And Arsene Wenger always used to be in there with a mate of his, and they'd sit right at the back of the restaurant. Nobody else would be seated anywhere near them, and they just sort of. And I saw him all those times, and I was like, I'm never going to go. I'm not going to walk across an empty restaurant to go and disturb this guy. But in boots, I thought, come on.
If you're a fair game, mate, that's the role of TV. If you're
fair game. Any shop's fair game, isn't it? Like, I think a restaurant, I think you've got to let it go.
In boots, Harry, was he over the sale? Was he over the sale section? The buy one get one free or something?
I tell you what, he uses.
He probably was. I tell you, like that. Right, even because
he uses Colgate. There you go. That's an interesting.
Yeah, well, red and white. That's why.
Same old Arsenal exclusive. Arsenal uses Colgate.
While we're doing that, Alex, where's the most weirdest place someone's come up to you and asked for an autograph or a photo?
Oh God, I'm just trying to think now. I'll be honest with you. I was in hospital. I was visiting someone who was quite ill in hospital. I was visiting my granddad in hospital. I remember one of the nurses asked if I could have a photo, and that was quite. I mean, you're not going to say no, but I remember thinking, like, yeah, it was quite a tough time, to be honest with you. That was a weird old place. I'm trying to think of other places. I think the thing, like, I remember
granddad's going to be fine. Just have a photo, like
in the like when there's like little local Sainsbury's down the road for me, and also because people don't expect to see me knocking about Huddersfield, I always get people coming up to me then, and a few times they've like tweeted and said that like, I hope you found the sour cream and stuff like that, and it's like I remember there was a fella who I was wearing a pair of shorts. I'd been to the gym, and this is still the strangest thing that anyone's ever said to me ever about me being disabled. And I had my shorts on, so you could clearly see my prosthetic leg. And this bloke's just like, "Oh, so what happens to your leg?" And I said, "Oh, well, you know, I was 13 months old, kind of had to have it amputated and stuff like that." He was like, "Oh, all right." And so is it going to get better though?
I shouldn't laugh, but
oh dear.
Like
what else do you do though?
I'm not in here for the cure, mate. Certainly not if Sainsbury's local. So I don't know what he thought I was trying to buy, but like that's not how. Like once legs are off, they tend to be off.
That's the end of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. You'll all be all right though. Yeah.
But the thing is that I always like my thing with like. Lucky enough to have done telly for like 8 years now, and there's something about footballers that's like a different. It's still like it brings out like the biggest like fanboy in me, and I can't help it. If I went to that like Arsenal Foundation the Night to Remember dinner a few years ago, and I remember Bellerin was on our table, and I lost my mind, and I stopped to like talk to them and stuff like that. And I remember once in Callum Chambers and Oxlade-Chamberlain at a premiere, and I just asked for a photo with the Ox. Chambers off.
They recognise you.
What you should have done, Alex, give the camera to Chambers. Here, mate, can you take a picture of me and Ox?
No, mate, it's just there's something about when you see footballers and stuff like that.
It's so true. It's so true.
And even like the old, all the old players as well. I, did a podcast with Nigel Winterburn a few years ago and stuff like that. And it was just like, it's so exciting.
Mate. Isn't it? I think it's just footballers in general, because that's what we love, isn't it? You know what I mean? And they're just like us anyway, aren't they? And so and you do ask for a photo, and then they're all like, always very helpful, and they go, yeah, no problems, like, it's good, isn't it? Like, so Harry, I've got to ask you, when you see these players, do they recognise you, Alex? Do they say, or they've not got a clue, or some of them have, or
Ramsey recognised me.
I'm jealous now.
On the plane home from Baku last season, when we were boarding, there was like the club charter flight was going through. Like Mertesacker was going from. Pat Rice was walking through, and I can't remember who it was that he was talking to, and he turned around and said, "Oh, this guy's a real legend," and put his arm around me, and I was like, completely. I didn't think Pat Rice would be into my comedy. But apparently, he absolutely bloody loves it. We saw Arsene. I've got a great photo of Arsene. He's a funny little fucker. He's a weird little geezer. I was like, Andre Arsene, let's get a photo with him. He looked like dead sheepish. Sorry for swearing.
That's good, mate. That's good.
Just we'll wrap up things while we've got Alex on it. So how comes you become an Arsenal fan? Let's have a little.
Let's have a little Alex chat.
Let's have a little Alex chat. Yeah,
I didn't get into football really until I was like a little bit older. So and not until I was like 8 or 9. And I'm from Croydon originally, so some of my family are Palace fans.
Oh, me
too. I didn't really support anyone, and like when I ended up kind of getting into football, like my best mates were all Arsenal fans, and that was it really. And kind of never really looked back. My stepdad was an Arsenal fan as well. He's an Arsenal fan. My old man used to hate the fact I supported Arsenal. He didn't support anyone, but the fact my stepdad supported him, he always used to go, they're crap. Even in 2004, he's like, they're crap. Just to try and get at me because it annoyed him that I supported the Arsenal. And it was one of those things. I remember like kind of the first big games I remember, like Zaragoza, that Cup Winners' Cup final was the first time I ever like really cried at football. And it was just like, from then I've pretty much been hooked, and I've been lucky as well because I kind of when I moved down to London to do telly, she was my then girlfriend, she's now my wife. When we were looking for flats and that, I was like, apparently there's some near the Arsenal ground if you fancy coming to look at there. And I remember we ended up going and moving into the Highbury Stadium Square, and we lived there for a couple of years. It was absolutely mint. When I got my first ticket, I was so excited. It's like that thing, in Fever Pitch where he kind of talks about like feeling connecting with the club. All the time. It's like Dan, that's where I've seen you, isn't it? Where I got my season ticket now.
Yeah.
And it's like before that I was over in the West End, and I think when I first got my season ticket, it's not. I always wanted that where you kind of have that nod of acknowledgement with the people who sit around you, and like even the people that do your head in. And it like it's just that's what I've always wanted. So I've been really lucky. I'll tell you this true story. I did a comedy gig at Arsenal a few years ago and got Arsenal wanted to go in the box for the cup semi-final. It was when we played Reading, and it's the first time I've been invited in like a director's box or it wasn't the director's box, but it was like a posh box at Wembley. And I was with a couple of other comedians, and I was with Rob Beckett and Romesh Ranganathan. Not name dropping, but that's who. Do
it, mate. Do it.
They'd got there on time, and like they'd been there for the meal. I don't remember turning up. I'd been to the Green Man before, and I was absolutely. I turned up to this meal, not dressed smartly at all. Late to this meal, there's this photo that Rob took, and I was just asleep. The whole game. And I've never been invited back by the club to any games. So I'm lucky I've got my season.
Mate.
I'm not I'm in the posh seats with the rest of them. Your Piers Morgan, your Jack Whitehall's of this world. I don't get to get in the just near you.
Alex,
Dan. That'll do, mate.
yeah, no, me, mate. That's all you need, bro. That's all you need. Alex, I've got to ask you, mate. Who's your favourite ever Arsenal player, mate, and why?
Perez. I loved him.
Good
I just thought he was just wonderful. And that 2002 season when he got injured as well, and that in that run up, he was so good. He was just unplayable.
Outstanding. Yeah.
You know, he influenced so many games so large, and and then he came back from. God, bear in mind that was a big old injury he came back from.
Yeah.
By the way, and he still came back and played at a high level, and I just thought he was unreal. I loved him, and it's weird because it's like a lot of people probably think on Henry, but I just love Perez. I love it. You always see him. He's always knocking about because he still works at the club, doesn't he? I'm still hopeful that one of these days he gets some sort of promotional event or something like that. Try and wangle my way in.
Have you not met him?
Play the disability card and just get the wheelchair back and just sit outside car park for long enough.
Have you not met Robert Perez? Never met him?
Nah, never met him, mate. I'd lose my mind.
That's all right.
I met Henri. I was lucky enough to meet Henri once. But yeah, no, I'd lose my mind if I met Perez.
We've got loads of things coming in the chat. Carol says she's met David O'Leary in Sainsbury's. You know, where they've all met him now. No, he's a nice guy. Liam Brady's a nice guy and all that, like, you know. Donna Potts. I don't know who Donna Potts is saying.
Yeah, who's Donna Potts? Yeah,
Potts, like, you know what I mean, she saying that she agrees with Alex that Robert Perez is her favourite.
I saw someone earlier, Dan, on the chat. And you could be brothers.
Say again, Alex.
I saw someone on the chat earlier. I was just glancing on the side, and I saw that someone, said they thought me and you. Do
you know what, mate? The picture that I had of me and you, Alex. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, are you two brothers? You two brothers." I'm thinking, I'll take that. Can't complain, mate. I've got to ask you as well, Alex. You've obviously gone for Perez as your favourite player. If you was to pick your favourite game that you've been to, like live, that you watched live, what would you go for?
Well, we went like the Leicester game when we went to season unbeaten was on my 20th birthday. And I remember my mate Jack couldn't get a ticket. The guy I sit next to now, and we couldn't get two because back in the days where you had to log on to Ticketmaster, and it was an absolute free for all. It was just like if you didn't get one in the first few minutes, you weren't going to get one. And I remember we one got in the basket, and then I had that one, and we couldn't end up getting in one. So I ended up going up, spent the day on my own, just going up there. And honestly, I tell you what, it was. That was one of the great days, and I don't think I ever, at the time, I don't think I fully appreciated it. Oh, obviously, at the time, I didn't think we wouldn't win the league again that soon after it. So I just think that was that day. I remember how hot it was, and that was amazing. And the other one I loved was the Juventus at home in the Champions League in that 2006, and the Arsenal, the social media, Twitter, they put up a clip of it the other day. And it was Highbury was so loud that night. It was something unreal, and it was like Fabregas like took control of the game. You got me in mind, like Vieira was at Juventus.
Juventus, yeah.
It was just that game was just incredible.
And Henri, wasn't it? Henri with the second goal.
Yeah, those two were probably kind of a big standout ones for me personally.
I must admit, the Juventus one was great because that's the first one that me and my dad went to Highbury. That was the first one because I could always get into Highbury, but I could never get my dad to come up with us, and that was just a perfect night for me. So to get my dad to go out to Highbury, 1-2-0, and that Leicester one, I mean, going unbeaten. I remember Paul Dickoff scored, and everyone thought, "Oh, you're joking! Don't lose this last one." Do you know what I mean? And then obviously Henri with a penalty, and then probably one of the best passes that I've seen from Bergkamp through to Vieira, absolute class. So that whole season was just magnificent, wasn't it? I don't think we're ever going to get one like it.
At the time, I honestly don't think I appreciated it. It's like I look back and I think we went through my whole first year at university without losing a game, and we got to the stage at the start of the following season where I remember us playing Middlesbrough at home, and we went behind a couple of times.
Yeah, 3-1 down, weren't we? Yeah.
Doing them like 5-3, and it just thought 5-4, 5-3.
5-3, yeah.
How many times the other team scored? We'd always we just blast them away. We had another gear to go to, which is sometimes, when I look at the team now, sometimes I feel like we're slightly lacking. All the great teams go through the gears. There were more
Yeah.
gears. Total
But
where-
do you not think like that season, that invincible season? I just went to every game thinking, I know we're going to win. I don't know how many by. Do you know what I mean? We just went in with those games.
It's a joy, and we can say what we want about the latter Arsene Wenger years, but you find me a football fan in the world that wouldn't give anything to have experienced that. God, you think about the amount of large Tottenham fans give it. They got no idea.
They got no right, have they? Like, you know what I mean?
Had our near misses, and that's a fact. So it's like I think we were spoiled. We were spoiled, and maybe some of the reaction to Arsene towards the latter stages was that of being slightly spoiled. But then I don't want to get into that debate late on now.
That going back to that Juventus game, just remember that Robert Perez robbed Patrick Vieira.
He did.
For probably the only tackle he's made. So great. What about you, Harry? What's your best game? I've got it'd be difficult for me to say, but
it's tough for me. Game that I was at live, it's got to be. It's a hard one because there's been obviously loads of North London derbies. I didn't get to go to Old Trafford till quite late on, so I didn't miss. I was 11 when we won the league there, so I couldn't go by myself. But I'm probably going to have to go with an Emirates era game, and in that sense, I'd have to pick the Barcelona one, the 2-1 win, because
that's mine.
That was some.
That's mine.
I just remember ending up 3 or 4 rows further down than where I was because when we scored. But also, when I was walking up to the ground to go to that game, somebody bumped into me coming out of a shop, and it turned out that he was a pickpocket, and he took my wallet, and I lost my wallet and my keys, and my season ticket was in the wallet. So I was obviously shitting myself, thinking I'm not going to be able to get into the ground. So I've sprinted down to the box office, and you know what a faff it is to get a replacement. There's a massive queue, and they ask you 100 questions. And I literally got into my seat as the game was kicking off, and I'm normally really early, so I was like, when that goal went in, after the madness passed, I was like really grateful that I was there and that I got in. So
I remember because that game for me was superb because I was going to the away leg. So I had tickets for the away leg, and that was the year that Van Persie got sent off for kicking the ball away. So I was gutted. Great time and all that out there. Nou Camp, amazing and all that. But that's that one for me. North London derby 5-2 was right up there as well. But I think Barcelona, just because I just didn't expect us to win, that was the best Barcelona side I've ever seen. Those era. So I think that was great for me. And I really enjoyed the Henry goal against Leeds when he came back. I thought that was fantastic.
That's another one,
was
definitely
right up there for me.
I'm going to tell you my age now. But the best game I've ever been to was at White Hart Lane at '87, the semi-final. It was just never ever get beaten. When Rocastle scored in the last minute, all the Spurs fans were singing "We're going to Wembley," and the whole crowd was going, "We're going to Wembley. You're not. You're not." And we was like losing, and Dan, Charlie Nicholas been carried off, and then the mad sort of 6 minutes. It was just, heaven. It was heaven, and like where I live, obviously, like in the Spurs era, me and my mate were standing at White Hart Lane Station, and there was about 6 or 7 big old Spurs strapping lads they were, and they was going like, if we see an Arsenal fan now, I'll fucking kill him. I'll kill him. Come on, you Spurs. It's a great day. It was a great day.
Lee, was you not there at Anfield 89?
No, do you know what? It was on a Friday night. My mate who I go with, Steve, who I go with all the time, he went up there. I am jealous to this day of him for going. I don't know how old I was, 19, 20 at the time. I don't know, but I was young. And I just felt getting up there on a Friday night. It was just too much. And we'd lost it. Well, we hadn't lost. We drew with Wimbledon on a Wednesday, and I just said, I ain't going to go. Couldn't get a ticket. Didn't want to go. I ain't going to win it anyway. Same old story. Throwing my toys out. So Steve went. He went up there, and I didn't. And I regret that for the rest of because when you see those scenes. That's when obviously terraces were about. It was amazing. And I went up there the following year, I think, and we lost 2-1. So, so maybe it was a good thing that I didn't go.
Oh mate, it must have been. I'd love to have gone, man. I was
Oh,
I was 2 years old though, so I never would have remembered it. Unfortunately, a bit too
the
young. for my
greatest
time.
thing about that was because we was at home though, we was able to go to Highbury, jump down at Highbury and go around all the party scenes. And like you see the fever pitch, what it was like. It was like that. It was exactly like that. Everybody going mad in the streets, and then everybody. It was just a fantastic time. I never thought Arsenal, in my supporting Arsenal, I never thought we'd win the league because Liverpool were this great side. And then to go there and win like that, it was unbelievable. So the great days. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, Alex, just want to talk to you about nowadays Arsenal. Bit frustrating. I've spoken to you at the ground a few times and in the stadium, have a beer with you about it. It's been frustrating and pretty depressing at times, mate. But where do you see us going with Arteta?
I think we were, obviously, I think that we've picked up. I think that we've improved a bit. If you think back to the West Ham game just before we've had this break, actually, let's be honest, West Ham should have scored a couple of goals in that. Really,
should have beat us. Yeah,
we're lucky to kind of get a win there, and I think that he's got a big old job in his hands, and I think we've just got to kind of wait and see, really. And the kind of the goalposts have shifted again somewhat for us. I suppose it's the same with everyone in world football. I know there's bigger things at play in the world at the moment, but some of the talk about kind of Arsenal wanting to defer wages and stuff like that, and obviously for us, how much our match day revenue accounts for how much we take in as a club, and it's kind of for us. We're not going to have the money to compete unless someone goes and piles, and unless Kroenke gets a bang on the head and goes, actually, do you know what? I might actually put some money into this. Just not, this is, there's more chance of, my leg growing back. Let's be quite frank. That game we're going to be, it's going to be a tough one, really. It's weird because, we were talking before about the Wenger years, and now as Arsenal fans our goals are slightly shifted really on what we want. I mean, you look at it now, and to get back into the Champions League's got to be the next big hope for us, really. And but I think he talks a good game, Arteta, and I think give him time. It's not that long he's been there, and give him a bit of time, and we got to see what happens. Really, I've got to tell you this. I did some filming at Arsenal just before Christmas. And I've done a documentary for BBC, but I saw a bit of footage for it. It wasn't about Arsenal. It was basically about it was called Alex Brooker Disability and Me. It's basically about this is a bit of promo for it before it comes out, but it's basically about my life. Anyway, but they filmed me from far in the ground, and it's the funniest few seconds of film ever because there's a shot of Arsenal. The crowd go like wild, and everyone starts cheering. I give it a large and go absolutely nuts, jump on my stepdad. And the next thing it does is cut to the scoreboard, and it's Arsenal 1, Southampton 1. And honestly, it really made me laugh. It is like, you'd have thought we'd have just scored the winner in the cup final. And honestly, it was because I was so fucked off with that game, how shit we were. I really gave it a big, and it's like, thank God for that. Funniest shot, fans of other teams are going to really laugh at it because it is absolutely ridiculous. We are at the moment, and you look at where we were under Emery, and that was grim.
That was grim.
That was grim, and Dan, when we talk before the game, sometimes it's like you hope upon hope that we're going to go and absolutely tonk someone, but it never quite works out, really. And I just think that we're just going to have to be patient with it. But to be honest with you, this is a thing. The fact that we've had a bit of a break from football has just made me appreciate it in general a lot more. So it's like, honestly, I'm looking forward to us, Mustafi doing something ridiculous. I think I'll cry. I know he'd been better before the break, but it's like, if he goes and slips or something like that, I think I'll just be so happy just to be back there.
I'm not going to moan if we don't get the results when we go back. I'm not going to moan. I am not going to moan.
I'll hold you to that, Lee.
I'm just going to appreciate being there. I'm just going to appreciate it.
First couple,
first couple. We're giving them a pass for the first couple, I mean. But I'll tell you what, if Mustafi does slip when he scores a goal, I'll be blaming you lot, going, look, you bloody wish that, you know what I mean? So.
I'm never going to slate Brighton versus Burnley Super Sunday again, though. I'll happily watch it. I tell you, because I'll take that at a moment.
I'll take anything at the moment. The other day, everybody was going mad watching a virtual race. You know what I mean? The national. You know what I mean? Like this is how desperate we are for a bit of football now.
Desperate times, mate.
The thing is, when you get those crap Super Sundays, there is usually a European game somewhere that compensates for it. So I might say to the missus, "Oh, you know what? We could do what you want in the afternoon, but then at night I'm watching Milan Juve or something.
Yeah, watching a good game.
Around. Yeah, I'll swap them around.
God, mate, you might have to talk to her now, Harry.
Oh, mate, do you know how much I've learned about my missus in the last few weeks? I know that she does the ironing. I know that my clothes don't just magically get back in my wardrobe. I've learned so much.
But she puts them away for you. That's unreal. That is. Like,
she's well trained, Harry.
That's well trained. That is.
That's it.
Very well trained.
Just ask the question: do you have your boxer shorts ironed? My mate, his missus irons his boxer shorts. I've never heard of saying. That's unbelievable. She must love him to do that.
I'm not gonna lie. I've got certain ones that get ironed and certain ones that don't. So like my nice ones, you know, like
lucky ones.
Yeah,
lucky ones,
yeah.
is it?
Oh, we know what ones they are, then, Harry.
Yeah, absolutely. Boys, it's been top. Alex, listen, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for coming on, Alex.
Thank you, mate.
Within the first couple of minutes, I've realised I've made a big mistake. I can't tell you how cold it is. It's good. I don't know how I'm feeling them right now. It is so. It's so cold. My arms gone blue, mate.
You've done well. You've done well. I appreciate you coming on. It's been brilliant,
Alex, it's been awesome, mate. We really appreciate it, man. And when the football's back, mate, when the football is back, I'll buy you a beer and we'll get together. But
that's the first. That damn buying a beer. Do you hear that, Harry?
Judges, you can talk. Judges, you can talk. Won't be a half pint one, Judges.
Oh, terrible.
No, you know what? You know what? Next Arsenal game, we should all get together for a beer. We always say it, but we never.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Like, yeah, definitely. I'm on the halves, though. Only on the halves. Buy all and half.
I actually agree with you on the halves. I think that's the right way to go.
If you're drinking a beer, it's got to be a pint, boys. Come on, what have you doing?
There's a method to it. I agree with the judge on that. I'll take the piss out.
Thank you very much, Harry. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Anyway, boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Harry, thank you for joining us, mate.
Thank you, mate.
It's been wicked, and Judges, of course, mate. Top man as ever.
I really enjoyed that.
It's been great. It's been really good just to get a little bit of reminiscing and talking about some memories. And fairly positive podcast, boys, as well. It wasn't a very negative one, was it? It was all good fun as well.
I'll tell you, just before we go, something you've got to watch on. I've got onto another series now. I don't know.
Here we go. Here we go.
Life on Mars. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, Gene Hunt, quality.
I've never seen it before. Like, so this is a good thing about lockdown, like, you know. So I'm into that now. Like, you know, someone said, "Oh, have you ever tried Life on Mars?" I said, "No." So I'm in about the third episode, loving it. There we go. You know? So if no one's seen it, get on that.
Peppa Pig in my house, fellas, just to keep the kids happy. It's non-stop Peppa Pig, and honestly, good
luck with that.
It's like, Peppa Pig is such a bad example to children. She's an absolute knob. I cannot. They're all kinds of food, but like they all laugh. Like the dad's allowed to get away with being this buffoon, and it's just. Non-stop, and they're always digging out Edmund Elephant as well. Like just because he knows stuff, he gets dug out by them all. We went together with it earlier, but
look at that. We're all getting series to watch, and Alex is watching Peppa Pig. That's quality.
Right.
Love it, boys. Love it. Listen, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everyone who's in the chat room as well. Thank you for all of you. 150 of you at one point tonight watching live. Thank you all so much. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and hopefully we'll get Alex on again sometime. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much, guys. Up the Arsenal.